Hey, TOB fans, Julian here with another bonus episode. I recently joined friend of the show, Axel from the Daily DVR podcast, to talk about Marvel, DC, Daredevil specifically on the Marvel side, a little bit more on the Lantern stuff, Superman, etc., James Gunn on the DC side, as well as dive into Severance. Now, the Severance thing is a little outdated because we were doing that based off of episode 7 of season 2. And episode 8 of season 2 is now out. I haven't seen it yet. So just be aware of that, but it is a good Severance kind of chat in there. Just a quick update on, where does everything sit in terms of the relaunch of the show. I'm working on that today as I record this right now. I will be doing a little bit more work on that. So it's coming. But again, the content isn't stopping in the meantime. So there'll be additional bonus podcasts like this one. Obviously, the monthly film club, the Patreon exclusive monthly film club won't be stopping this month, by the way. Constantine, they just re-released the 4K Blu-ray of that. So in honor of that, we'll be doing our film club on that. I already have a pretty good idea of where we're going to go next. Hint, it has something to do with a recent passing and respecting that actor's passing. So we're going to be doing something on that next month. But if you want to know the details, obviously you're going to have to listen to this coming month's Patreon exclusive film club. Again, that is how would you describe it? The cult hit from the era of comic book movies where they kind of wanted to shy away from being a comic book movie. So Constantine, widely considered to be very good, although a bit of a flop at the box office when it released at the time. If you want to get access to those, patreon.com/Tower Babblecast. Patreon.com/Tower Babblecast, and you will find everything that you're looking for. You can also navigate there from the website, towerofbabble.ca, of course, as always. And follow us on Blue Sky, Tower of Babel podcast on Blue Sky, where I've been spending most of my time mostly doom scrolling about the state of the geopolitical issues between the United States and Canada. In fact, by the way, and I won't be reposting this on this feed just because this has generally not been the place for that. But if you want to find it, you can head over to dvrpodcast.com. And there is a episode of this recording that Axel split out into a separate conversation called Don't Blame Canada, a political discussion with Julian from the Tower of Babel. And I recommend, if you are feeling anxious about that whole stuff, go give it a listen. It's certainly intense. It felt really good to get it off my chest. But again, I'm not reposting it on this feed. I'd recommend go checking out their podcast feed. They're doing stuff all the time. Again, that's dvrpodcast.com. Don't Blame Canada. That's the episode where you'll see me. Otherwise, what you're about to hear is the intro from Axel, jumping into a conversation about the more nerdy stuff that we usually cover. So hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk again soon.
Welcome back, everyone, to Daily DVR. We have a very special show for you today. Julian from the Tower of Babel podcast is here with us. We're going to be talking all types of TV, film, pop culture. Maybe we might get a little political as well. U.S.-Canada stuff. We're gonna bridge that divide and hold hands as we speak together. Check us out at dvrpodcast.com. Become a patron at patreon.com/DVR. Thank you to all of our new patrons. We're currently covering Severance and The White Lotus. We hope you're enjoying that. I've just been looking at what we might be covering next. Not quite sure. There are some interesting shows coming out, but we haven't chatted with everyone yet, so we'll see. But today we do have Julian here. Julian, welcome to the show. Last time you were on was our best TV shows of 2024.
Captain America Brave New World came out, and it was the most milquetoast bullshit I've ever seen. It had nothing to say. It was called Brave New World. It used to be called New World Order, by the way, before they changed that because it was too associated with extreme, like the far right. But they had one of the greatest movie stars of all time, and Harrison Ford playing the president of the United States, and who was going to become the Red Hulk, because all this stuff, and they had nothing to say, not a single thing. We don't know anything about the politics of this supposed president. They are dealing with this like identity politics, but like barely at all. It's so feckless in its attempt to have to like tell an interesting story in this world of intrigue when they're so afraid of taking a position, having a point of view. And so Daredevil, which is an interesting parallel because it was in development hell for 3 or 4 years. They had shot, tons and tons of stuff. It was originally supposed to be this like, week to week legal procedural type show. He wasn't going to be in the costume until the 7th episode, that kind of stuff. Until they reshot it, reconfigured it. And this reconfiguration of it is interesting because the way that they're treating Wilson Fisk, right, Kingpin, is as a Trump parallel, and they're not shying away from that. And right there is a point of view that I'm like, having any point of view is a good start, but this is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
so
that's what I'm saying, man. Like recently, and you haven't been watching The White Lotus, but they had a political conversation where they talked about things openly. That's where we need to go with art and creativity, and stop.
You can't pretend. It doesn't. It's happening.
It's hard. You know what? It's hard because we had a show where we talked about the best streamers a while back. And one thing that we didn't really talk about is, well, hey, this streamer has the balls to make something or release something that others won't, because I don't know if there is one. And that's actually kind of cool that Daredevil did that. I think sometimes people can sneak shit in, but just even recently, like that Prince documentary was canceled. The follow-up to that Michael Jackson Finding Neverland, I think, is having trouble finding distribution, isn't going to be on HBO again because they don't want to deal with it. It can be hard.
The documentary, the Oscar winner for Best Documentary Feature this year can't get distribution because it's too politically charged. Is the documentary not designed to be politically charged? Isn't that like the whole point of a documentary? So it's like, that's corporations,
what money does. People,
that's what I mean. Like these corporations that run these streaming services, who are now realizing that the bill is due, and that's why it's all collapsing under them, are too afraid of the backlash, quote unquote, of these, fools who are willing to like boycott. What was it that they were upset about last time? Bud Light for having a rainbow flag on it. It's like, you know what I mean? Like this stuff. Take a stand, have a position, and be and stand by, stand on your morals, on your principles.
We'll see. I mean, I think that's a challenge, right? We'll see.
All it shows is that they have none. That the only thing they care about is profit, and so that's a recipe for bad art. That is unfortunately where we stand. Like if we got into a conversation about the state of film versus the state of TV, and probably the only reason that TV has been able to push boundaries of all types more so than film. Yeah, stakes are lower. They need more content. You know what I'm saying? It comes in one week, it's out the next. A film is a huge marketing campaign, distribution, international. It's like it turns into this big deal. So now they just want to make the blockbuster. That's what makes it. That's why I think a film like Anora, I was talking about this with Heath earlier today. Yeah, Anora was made for what, $3 or $6 million. I was listening to a podcast. It said that the budget to market it was like between 15 and 20. Yeah, when they spent a huge amount of money on marketing it specifically for the Oscars. And
so I understand, it's still things.
It's wild.
it's still that, and that doesn't, well, someone will be sitting here and say, well, that's not a lot of money. This movie cost 250 million.
Right, but we need less $250 million movies and more $3, $5, and $10 million movies.
I wish like that when Sean Baker had like turned to like, hey, Netflix, instead of making one $250 million movie, let's make 25 $10 million movies. And I bet you at least 5 of them will be awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, because all of the big movies you've made so far suck. And this Electric State that's getting released tomorrow with Chris Pratt, Millie Bobby Brown, directed by the Russo brothers, of course, famous for their Marvel, but they started directing Community, if people remember that. This is getting panned already. Like, people say it sucks. It's boring. It's a waste of money, blah, blah, blah. So
for the new Avengers movies?
No, this tomorrow on Netflix, there's a movie called The Electric State that's being released.
Okay. And this is a Russo brothers movie?
Yes, this is their big Netflix movie and it cost like $250 million or something like that. It was like a ridiculous, it's big on the CGI. There's a big robot in it, which kind of makes me happy. I love big robots.
I think you know what? I've seen the trailer for it.
Yeah.
I can't say, I mean, I don't know if I'll watch it or not. I mean, it's got big stars and it seems interesting. That being said, I have, Netflix has got a lot of work to do to win me back as someone who's going to say when I see a Netflix logo on a movie, specifically movies, that I don't feel like I'm just going to be sold the most sloppy slop I've ever seen. Like,
I feel that way about a lot of the shows, man. Like, we talked,
that too.
There's some great ones, and Andy reminded me, right? Like, I mean, my top show was a Netflix show, and Ripley, but I thought that wasn't that the name of it? Forget now. The Thomas Ripley.
I don't know. The one I didn't watch. Yes, but yes.
It was amazing. But most of their stuff, it's funny. I think that now I actually turn to Netflix more for reality stuff than I do. Like, when I see a drama coming to Netflix.
That's their bread and butter.
Yeah. I assume it's going to be like, okay, like this 0 Hour with what's his name? Oh, fucking hell.
I don't know what was 0 Hour.
Robert De Niro.
Okay.
The new Robert De Niro show, that was like decent, but not great. You like a lot of their animation though, don't you?
I do like their animation. I will admit that they make good animation. They're like, they have like a whole anime arm, and it produces their Castlevania stuff is good. And I find it's violent and fun, and like it's very different from the rest of what they do elsewhere in the company, which makes me think that they're for sure going to all be fired soon. So,
well, speaking of streamer and recent news, I did want to get your opinions on Amazon taking over the James Bond franchise from the Broccolis and doing with it what they may do with it. What was your initial reaction? How do you feel about Bond? What's your feelings about it?
Well, I think it's important to note James Bond is the longest running film franchise currently in Hollywood. And so that it has prestige. There's a reason that they did. It's funny. So you go to the Oscars, they do this like James Bond bit. Like, there's a bunch of singing and dancing, and it's very nice.
Yeah.
But it seems odd because it's like, well, what's the occasion? There is really no occasion. The sentiment I got was that in Hollywood, people see this move as the like worst case scenario for this franchise, and that this was almost like a funeral for James Bond as we know it at the biggest movie stage in the world. And I can get behind that. I mean, that's kind of my perspective on it. Like, that's why they did it that way, because it seems like they threw it together pretty quick. The singers they chose were an odd choice, which makes me think that they couldn't get anyone else, right? And so you take a step back and you look at this like larger landscape, and James Bond movies come out once every 5 years, give or take, maybe longer, and that's fine. you could argue that there was probably a way to accelerate that, in a way that kind of helped the brand gain a little bit more footing in the, with the younger generations, especially. I mean, like, I really liked the last one. But I also know that it has flaws. I really liked the Daniel Craig era as a whole, really up and down. Kind of funny how it was kind of like one good, then bad, then good, then bad, then good, then bad. Like it was really funny how he kind of fell into that trap. And I'm a massive Pierce Brosnan fan. He's my favorite.
Interesting.
I mean, it's a generational thing, but I'll explain it quickly, which is to say, he has the gold. By the way, GoldenEye is a top 5 James Bond movie easily. It's the thing with Pierce Brosnan is he was the best Bond with the worst scripts, and it's really unfortunate.
See, for my generation, it was, we all knew, like, season 1 of Remington Steele, every kid in the world was like he's James Bond. That's James Bond. And then he couldn't get out of the contract, and it was like years later, then he's Bond. And Timothy Dalton, I think, really threw a lot of like cold water on the whole franchise. It just wasn't cool. And then they tried like a little too hard with him, and the movies were those were the dark
ones, right? Those are the ones like the more Timothy serious Dalton. Dark.
He's just I liked it.
I think Timothy Dalton is a great actor, and I love him now, especially in his like older era.
He was kind of boring back in the
day. I don't love his James Bonds. Yeah. I will just say this.
It was like Mr. Darcy as James Bond. That's not exciting.
Okay. So, everyone has their favorite. I'm not going to, disparage anyone's favorite Bond. That being said, Daniel Craig.
Mine's George Lazenby.
no one's favorite's George Lazenby. It reached a conclusion with Daniel Craig, maybe two movies too late or whatever. Who knows? Ultimately, the franchise needed a refresh regardless. And I think there's this like larger perspective, this opinion out there that's like, oh, the Broccoli's are sold out the franchise to Amazon. And my perspective is the Broccoli's were just another billionaire, millionaire, whatever.
Thank you.
That was gatekeeping Bond. They had like, we're supposed to believe that they were such great caretakers for this franchise when they put out one good movie every 10 years. Like, come on.
No.
So
silly.
The truth is, it's like meet
That's
the
like
old
people
boss
who
or meet
miss
the new boss, same as the old
Blockbuster
boss.
Video. You know what I'm saying, dude?
Yeah.
They don't think about the mom and pop. They're like, oh, Blockbuster was awesome. And I know that sometimes that's the only thing people had. But they put out of business they were not like a good company. And you shouldn't remember them with fondness. We should remember our local mom and pop video store, the library, with fondness. But I agree with you it's a very good point of view. I have a very similar point of view. I just want these movies to be fun. I don't have a huge attachment to Bond. Yeah, I guess maybe my favorite is Roger Moore because I grew up with him. And I loved Moonraker. That was like seminal.
I like the silly ones.
They're silly.
I do have a soft spot for the silly ones,
dude.
Yeah.
To me, James Bond that's why I had a little problem ever taking serious. Like, I know the most recent Daniel Craig one. Some of the set pieces that they do are awesome, but the movies were so convoluted, and also it kind of relied on the fact that you somehow cared who these people were. Oh my God, it's whoever it Rami Malek
they're
was,
like, right?
I don't fucking care.
It was
it didn't matter.
They made a mistake in Spectre.
Not everybody.
No one cares about the lore.
The lore
that's not fair.
And world building is not for every story.
Some people cared. Some people like that character, and they like Spectre as an agency and as a bad guy for Bond, and it was tied up in rights and all that stuff. That being said, the execution was poor. That was the problem with it. They kind of like devalued all the previous 3, including Skyfall, which is easily the best one out of those movies. It's like
that's the one with the house, right?
Yes, the conclusion with M is so good. All that stuff, and then.
I just remember the set pieces, man. I remember the action stuff, and that's why, for me, There's only
it's all vibes. James Bond's all vibes.
I dig it.
Man.
I dig what you're saying. And you know, come on, who do we all want to direct a James Bond movie?
Yeah, this is the craziest thing, by the way. Yeah. So maybe the best working director in Hollywood right now wants to make a James Bond movie.
Yeah. Christopher Nolan. That's what
Christopher Nolan.
about.
Yes. Chris Nolan.
I don't know if he's the best working director. I mean, there's some others I prefer,
he's up
but
there.
In this genre, he's up there, and he could do this. He would kill it.
100%.
They got to do it. That's what.
But Amazon said no because they wanted Final Cut. Yeah. Imagine telling Christopher Nolan, the guy who made a movie about the nuclear bomb, as boring as you can possibly make it, probably. And it's still made over $1 billion or whatever.
I love
and
that you said that.
Listen, I like that movie a lot, but like I'll admit that it's like it is not
not a huge fan.
Not a very exciting movie.
I love Tenet. I've seen Tenet like 50,000 times. I've seen Inception 50,000 times.
I hate Tenet.
You hate Tenet? How could you hate Tenet?
It's so up its own butt. I hate it.
God, I love it. Oh my God.
I love
cool.
I love the like complexity of it.
Yeah, I love how it doesn't tell you anything. It just starts, and that's like that's for me, those are the kind of film, like I love Primer, these 2001, that's my 2 top films. I love movies like that. Tenet for me is so fucking cool. Inception 2 is so cool.
Oh yeah,
I mean, going back to really Memento. When I remember the first time I saw Memento, I was blown away. Like even just the number of cuts in that movie is ridiculous. It was so good. But go back. Have you ever seen his first film, The Following? Or I think it's just called Following.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
It's really good. He from the beginning, he was a master, and just following his career. I may have not been a huge Oppenheimer fan, but that's a separate issue. I still respect the filmmaking. I respect the man. That's sad to me that they would. I didn't know that they said that.
Yeah, that was a news story I think last week.
You never know. Though. You never know.
Sure. I mean, this is maybe it's a little bit of like gamesmanship or whatever. But I mean, it's a bad sign because when you're talking about someone like Christopher Nolan, he's not going to do the work unless he has Final Cut. That's
years.
Important.
Yes,
totally. He's earned that right. And here's the thing: if you want to start off the James Bond era under Amazon the right way, you do a one-off, really fucking awesome Christopher Nolan James Bond movie because he won't do the sequels, right? That's he's done with like franchise filmmaking.
I would agree. You never know. Let me ask you this question.
It's possible.
Let me ask you this question. If it's not Christopher Nolan, who's your number 2?
I don't know. To be honest, like, I don't know. Because the people, like all my favorite directors would never do it, is kind of how I feel about it. So Christopher Nolan feels like the unique case of being like, he's designed in a lab to do this. And
I'm thinking of the fact that directors today that I actually like, because I'm not a huge fan of like the John Wicky type. I like more of the big stunts.
Give it to a really great cinematographer who has a really good team around them that, can do, they trust for stunt choreography and stuff like that.
The Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah, what's his name? McQuarrie? No, that's not right.
Yeah, McQuarrie. Yeah, it's not
Christopher McQuarrie.
Christopher McQuarrie. Yes, McQuarrie.
I mean, that would be an interesting. That'd be quite the
experience.
Right?
He could do those big set pieces.
You get Mission Impossible. You pull him over to James Bond. That's a get. Cool. I guess what I mean is that
Tom Cruise
right now
shows up in the movie. We get a little Tom Cruise cameo.
They do work together well. I mean,
how about that? How about an Ethan Hunt James Bond crossover movie?
I feel like people have been teasing that idea for a long time. And again, I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a fun concept.
I'm going to say something radical to you right now. The Mission Impossible series is better than James Bond.
Well, better is it's very different, and it's
I have more fun
much
watching
younger
those movies than I do.
It's so much younger. Like it started in a completely different era.
Do you know what year?
Like 97 or something like that. I want to say for the
96.
Yeah, okay.
That's a long time, man.
Yeah. I respect that they
it's 30 years.
How about get who did the first one? De Palma did the very first one?
Yeah,
right?
Brian De Palma.
So maybe you get like a really
Doug Liman do one?
Yes.
Doug Liman did one. Doug Liman is one. He could do a great James Bond movie because Live, Die, Repeat, or whatever they call it, is one of the best sci-fi movies of the past.
So good.
20 years.
It's amazing. I agree with
Love
that.
that movie.
Brian, is De Palma still alive?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get him then. Let's get him to do it. I would be fascinated with it. Yeah. I mean, so is the franchise.
That's true. All right, let's move it along. We only have
fair
you
enough.
for so much time.
Last thing I want to say on that is that we are off to a bit of an auspicious start, mostly because of the Nolan stuff. Am I worried about them doing too many spinoffs? No. You're not going to kill the James Bond franchise.
Agreed.
It's not. I think it's stronger than that. And if anything, Amazon has shown that they can actually make good movies and shows, and I trust that their creative teams are good. Do I trust Bezos? No. Do I trust that the creatives behind Amazon Prime know how to select good filmmakers and make good movies and shows? Because I've watched them myself, and they've won an Oscar. I believe. Then yes, they can do that.
When we previously talked about this, I think Andy and I chatted a bit about it. One of the things we did bring up, which is we haven't talked about yet, which is that there is a little bit of a example that has happened already, which is that they have the Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
And they have not made 50,000 stupid shows. They put a lot of money. It's not,
despite paying $1 billion for the rights. Yeah,
I didn't think the first season was that great, but the second season was a big improvement.
I really like that show.
Me too. Every week I wanted to watch that show, and I did not feel that way the first season. So I gave them a thumbs up for season 2, and they put a lot of time into it. They're going to do season 3. The description sounds good. So the precedent is that they didn't go stupid nuts about it, right? So let's see if they do that with James Bond. I mean, they've had that Lord of the Rings for what, 5 years, 6 years? Right?
Yeah, it took them a while. I think it took them 3 years to get
a long time
to get Rings of Power to get into development.
But that's a long time. They could have done a lot. They could have done a sitcom with Frodo. They could have, you know what I'm saying? They didn't do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you in the sense that, like, again, the stuff that they put out is usually pretty good. Yeah, so it's like, sure, why not? Give me a Felix Leiter spin-off.
Now I want a sitcom with Frodo, Julie, and I've talked myself into it. I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, fuck, I'd watch the hell out of that.
Is it him in the Undying Lands after he's
no, it's like
left?
It's like pre-Ring shit. He's just chilling. You know what I'm saying? It's like the adventures in the Shire and everything.
It's just hanging out in the Shire. It sounds like a mood piece I'm interested in.
Oh, dude. Or they could be solving little mysteries here and there, helping out around town.
Who stole what's his name's carrots or whatever?
Yes, exactly.
It's always Merry and Pip though. That's the unfortunate.
Wow. Okay, I'm sold on it. You have been watching Severance.
I have, yes.
Let's chat about it. We've been covering it. What were your thoughts? And this is going to be, just so everyone knows, maybe I'll even take a note of when this is. I never put times in my podcast.
But it is a running show. I feel like it's important. If we're going to talk spoilers.
We are talking spoilers on Severance. So if you're not up to date, then tune out.
Up to date as of today, which is the 13th. And I haven't seen today's episode yet because it's not out yet.
It's not out. So we're talking the last episode we saw.
So it's 7. Right,
was episode 7, and it was focusing on Harmony Cobell and her journey back to her hometown of, I think, what was it called? Salt's Neck?
Salt's Neck, yeah.
What did you think of that episode, and what do you think of the season?
Well, I think this show is the best show on television right now. Full stop. I think that is true. I think it is smarter than almost every show on television. It has more interesting things to say than almost any other show. And its performances are top notch. It's just really amazing filmmaking on display on a weekly basis and like mystery building in a very satisfying way. Now, I say that, and I go on to say that this last episode where we go spend our entire episode in Salt's Neck is not their best episode. And that's okay. Episode 7 of season 2 of maybe a 3 or 4 season show, you can have a lull from time to time. That's fair.
What problems did you have with it?
Well, it's just really slow. It's really slow. And so that's my Like the show has a momentum to it, and I actually really appreciate. Like last week, for instance, Chikai Bardo episode 7, which had so many interesting things going on, was willing to shake up that momentum and like change things up a bit. It was directed by their cinematographer, I think, and it had a different look. They used different cameras, especially for the flashback stuff. It was very different, and that's good. I like a show that can be different, so it doesn't have to be the same. It's not Law and Order. It doesn't have to follow a weekly script, formula. So Sweet Vitriol, which is episode 8, I like getting a chance to explore Harmony Cobell's backstory. We peel back another layer or two of the onion around kind of this like Wintertide fellowship situation, this like the way that the company basically indoctrinates children from a young age, and also puts them to work, so like
yes,
right away this idea around child labor, which was like introduced in this really fascinating way with this young girl appearing in the severance floor in the first episode, and it's like everyone's like, why are you a child? It's like that stuff is interesting. You don't really immediately go to, oh, child labor. That wasn't the first thing. I think the show is designed in a way to kind of guide you to not think about that necessarily, and of course they kind of try to cover that. And then this episode directly like challenges that perspective. It says, hey, no, we were putting kids to work in a more explicit way in a factory, which is like,
an ether factory.
An ether factory. What do you use ether for if not for getting high? I don't like, what's it for? Does anyone know?
I think ether, well, I think it is used, isn't it used to like to clean? Maybe?
Is it clean?
Or I don't know what else ether can be used for. I'm not sure. I thought it was like a cleaning agent.
Various uses, including acting as a solvent, an anesthetic, and even as a recreational drug.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting. Well, that's what a solvent is, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, a solvent can be a cleaning compound, but it's usually a part of it. Anyway,
that was what was fascinating to me, and what I got from the episode. And you're right. After thinking about it a bit, I really loved it, and we talked about it.
It's just very beautiful.
Yeah,
it's directed by Ben Stiller.
That's what got me.
It's a gorgeously shot episode. You got this wintry coast look. I don't know. Like I'm trying. Like, is this what Maine looks like? I don't even know. Like, to be honest, like
it was shot in Canada.
Okay, it looks like, I was gonna say, the next thing I was gonna guess was like it was Newfoundland somewhere.
Yep.
And
it was.
So it's really gorgeous to look at. This, like the snow contrasted with the ocean, and this like the icebergs in the bay, and look really gorgeous. But you maybe have like 20 minutes worth of dialogue in the entire episode, and it's stretched out. I mean, the episode itself is only like 48 minutes, and it is just excruciatingly slow. I would have liked having this intercut with something else going on back at Lumen or whatever, to try to like maintain a little bit more momentum, keep the tension a little higher. This feels like a big like step back exhale, which is fine. I'm okay with those episodes, especially after last week. But I just think it's a little bit like, it's a bit too much of an overcorrection, in my opinion. That's, yes, and again, it's a bit nitpicky, but it's fine.
No, I can see where you're coming from, and it does follow another episode that was like character specific outside of our normal building and town that we're in, right? Where we learned about, like you said, where we learned about Gemma and Mark's relationship. So I can see that. I just, I wasn't always a huge fan of all the stuff inside the building and stuck on the floor. I found it to be a bit claustrophobic, and it was
the
always
first two episodes.
Yeah, well, even a lot of the first season, right? Like I found it to be claustrophobic, and I always was hoping for the show to expand itself like this. So this is just the kind of episode I was waiting for. And the other thing that really hit me was the story of that town. I think they just did such a good job of showing what happens to a town when it's left behind by industry and by a corporation. that is using its children and putting them to work in an ether plant, and then how this company then ditches the ether when it can steal the idea from one of the little girls who was working there. Now, there are some questions in the show, right, Julian, which is, if she was sniffing that much ether at the age of 8, it did not cause her any brain damage, yet she
does speak like a crazy person.
Yes,
so I don't,
but she still designed a chip that could go in your brain and cut off your personality.
Yes, it certainly strains credulity a little bit. Like, but the thing is, like,
school.
Is it that much of a stretch? Given what we know about the show already and like the world they've established, is this really a step too far? I don't think so.
No. I agree. I just wanted to point it out because when we did our podcast and later, I was reading some of people's reactions that they really thought this episode was kind of dry. It was long. It was a little boring. We didn't know these characters, all this kind of stuff. Whereas I had kind of different reactions. So I had to try to really challenge myself. And that was the first thing I thought is I was like, wait a second. That is kind of funny that like she should be like brain damaged. And meanwhile, she's like this super genius, but it fits for this world because this is an alternate reality, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think a lot of people.
They set up.
What's that?
I like the world that they've created because it's still so obscured from us. Well, it's in a state we've never heard of before. It's like a made up state.
Yeah. PE. I think a lot. That's what I was going to say is I think that there are people watching the show who are not always considering that and who are maybe sometimes judging the characters' actions as they would themselves act. You know what I mean? Like a little too much like it's happening in the real world where it's not. So I think that allows weird situations. I agree. As well.
Right. And for characters to act in a way that doesn't seem like normal. But you got to get, it's like, the sentiment I pick up is that the outside world is not in a good shape. Like I'd agree. That's the like, it's not just this town. Like we barely ever see people. And it seems like to me, and maybe this is just like, we're only seeing this one tiny sliver of it, but it seems to be that there was something really terrible happened, and like the world is not in a good state, or at least the United States is not in this fantasy world, so alternate reality. So that's another whole layer of the show that I'm interested in, which is like what's the deal with the rest of the world?
Yeah,
like what's going on and why, and like what happened that would drive people to do Severance in the first place, right? Because it would not, most people wouldn't agree to do that. But if you could never get a job anywhere, right, or there's so few of them, you might be willing to do something extreme. So that's interesting.
I agree with that. I want to stay with that point just for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because that is something that we talked a lot about in the beginning of the show, and we kind of try to come back and look at here and there, but I like the way that you brought it out of the individual reason for doing it into a larger, and that's kind of why this episode, the Gemma episode, I can see this show really expanding past PE, past this town, and showing us the whole world and having and saying something about it, you know, having a point of view of why we're seeing what we're seeing on an individual level reflected in the wider world. So that really makes me think what you said, that things are really bad out there, that, right, people are maybe having trouble getting a job or this, that, you know, that is interesting. I hope they show more of that. But there is a large part of the fan base, and I see this when I read about the show, that people really want them to go be back in the building, back on the testing floor and micro data refinement, you know,
that's where the drama is, right? That's why, right?
I guess, but I find it kind of claustrophobic again. That's the point.
Yeah. It's supposed to make you feel that way.
It works.
So it's working. It's working.
It's working for me.
I will say this though, this episode did ruin one of my theories. I don't typically keep a lot of theories, but the whole like what did Bert do that was so terrible that he severed himself and as some sort of like penance. I thought that he was the inventor of Severance, but maybe he was the one that like developed it after out of the stolen plans. This is my like evolved version.
I like that very much.
If Harmony was the one who designed it and her plans were stolen by an Egan, right? And then handed to Bert to implement, maybe that is what his like conscience is.
I love it. I love that because you know what? I could see him saying, these plans, they're the ravings of an ether lunatic or something, right? Like an 8-year-old child. The idea was there, but it had to be refined, right? Like I did that part or something. Like, and I think that definitely Irving, Bert, good or bad,
right,
is definitely, we don't know, right? So we'll see more of that. There's only 2 more episodes.
How many more seasons do you think we're going to get?
I think
1 or 2.
Discussed 4. I thought that's what I heard, but
I don't think they've committed to anything. I could see next season being the last season or 4.
No,
I don't think anything longer than 4 is too many. Is my thinking.
I hope you're right because I too am a fan of telling a story with brevity. It doesn't need to go 6-8 seasons for me.
Well, I hope they don't take 2 years between seasons also. That would be bad.
I'm okay with it.
That.
You know what? I don't really, I mean, again, as we talked about and said, I'm old and I grew up waiting years for a movie or,
wait a couple
that's
true,
years,
but the shows that you liked were coming out. There was like a 4-month break.
That's true. But the TV wasn't what it was. So that's why I liken it more to like a film. Like if
but
they're going to take that long, I'm okay with them. 2 years is 2 or 3 years is a long period of time. People forget for the sake of the show. You're right. Because look what happened to, I don't know if have you been watching this season of Invincible on Amazon?
I have, yes. Mm-hmm.
I really love that show, but gosh, really kind of, they tried to kill it with that season 2, splitting it up and where they
learned their lesson on that. They learned their lesson on that. They're not going to do that.
I hope they did because is it doing well? Are people liking it?
Yeah, it's back. It's back. Yeah,
okay.
I think they definitely took a hit, and like they probably haven't been able to achieve the heights of like the season 2 finale, or season 1 finale. Yeah. But I guess what I've heard is that like stuff only gets crazier from here over the next few seasons. So I just feel like what I love about Invincible, just as a brief side, is its ability to handle these really heavy subjects and explore these like fantastical ideas, but they're really about grief and about responsibility, and they handle it in such an interesting way, and I appreciate that about an animated show that's extremely violent.
Oh my God,
so I'm a big fan of Invincible.
I have to be in a certain mood to watch that show because there's so much blood. It's so
a real emotional
violent,
roller coaster.
And it's very emotional, as you said.
Yeah.
It is. I love that show. The voice acting on that show is Emmy
top
worth.
notch.
Like it's worthy. It's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that because I was a big fan and I was just like, man, they just fucked up. I know they were trying to get it out there because they didn't want people to wait and blah, blah, blah. But it's just the way they did it just almost sabotaged the show. And I was like, damn, I hope people are coming back to it because of the ultra violent superhero shows, it's very intelligent. And you're right. It's grounded in a person not wanting to commit violence who is consistently forced to do so.
Right.
And that is the main struggle of the character Invincible. And I think that really shines through. It's really, who created that? Was it Kirkman, the guy who did Walking Dead?
I believe, yes, it is. Yeah.
Wow. He did a much better job with this than Walking Dead. Cause Walking Dead was horrible. The first season
I think
was
it ran it out of it. Like the whole thing with The Walking Dead is he had no end plan.
Yeah, you got. I think you should have dove into the lore. That's a case where they should have dove into it. They should have tried to find a cure. They didn't
want to do that. He was all about the human experience. That was all he cared about, and you could just do it forever and ever and ever. But it turns out it does have diminishing returns.
Experience. Right? Like the same one, which is, hey, we ran into somebody. Oh wait, are they good or they're bad? Oh, they're bad.
Shocker.
That's the story.
Okay, last question on Severance. Do you think that Harmony Cobell is now fully against Lumen, or is this is it like not that straightforward? Because seeing the calls that Mark's sister was like, she kept trying to call her throughout the episode, and based on the way that last episode went, I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. Why would you bring this woman, the woman who lied to your face about being a lactation consultant, back into the equation? She was just going to sell you and Mark out. And then so she's just like going through this process in this episode, and then answers the phone and is like, tell me everything. So it's like, is she still pro Lumen? Because she doesn't seem like it. She's like, feels like she's like, at one point in the episode, she says, like, what are they going to do? Forgive me the same way that they forgave, can't remember who she was referencing, but like, she assumes that they're just going to try to take her out, right?
Well, remember before she went home, she went to Lumen, and she had that
were like,
confrontation with Helena.
Please enter this car.
Exactly.
And she's like, absolutely not.
So to answer your question, we talked about this on our show a bit, and I think we all came to the same conclusion, which is that ultimately she has her own motivations and her own ideas about how or what Mark should do, or how Cold Harbor or Severance should work out. And I think that's going to be her overriding motivation there. So I don't.
Yeah, we still don't know what Cold Harbor is.
I don't think she's really on anyone's side at this point, but I do think she might be. Let's put it this way. You know how those true believers are, right, man? Like, sometimes what they do is they can't quite cut the titty, right? Like, they have to be like, well, it's not that the religion's bad, it's the people.
Right.
It's not that cult was bad, it's that this one person misrepresented it. But really, it's good, so I'm going to go. So she could still be a cult member that thinks she knows the pure Kier way, and it's been diluted by his progeny.
His prodigy.
Yes,
yeah. So
exactly.
I guess but I guess, yeah, I can believe that. I could see that as being true. The thing is, of course, the reality is that the teachings of Kier are in and of itself poison. So like,
that's what she might try to say, even though, of course, it obviously is. It's a cult. But she's so in it. That's what I thought that episode did a great job of, just kind of, without giving us I like that it didn't give us all the answers. We had to kind of guess, who is this person? Oh, and then we find out little parts. It really built this story of her growing up in a cult. That's what I felt like. Like, she is, I mean, I don't know. Have you ever, I guess I was.
Have I been in a cult? No.
I was a Catholic until I was like 16. So that's kind of a cult.
That's cult. Yes, I am. I was also raised Catholic, but
you know the deal then. Come on, man. You got to drink the blood and all that shit. That's cult-like, bro.
Yeah, but
that ain't normal.
They don't even do that anymore.
Hey, Saturday morning, you got to drink the blood and eat the body. I was like, oh shit, man, this is a little early for this. I'm only 9.
Well, see, the thing is, I can what I grew to realize was that it was all symbolic, right? It's this like,
of course, all about, I know.
So it was this whole thing but like, this is like, you need to take these teachings literally, and this is of course the same problem with evangelical Christians, by the way, which is the literal interpretation, which is clearly not the point. But like, if you try I mean, to me, this whole show is kind of like, it could be looked at as like a takedown of Mormonism, but like, there's
aspects of Mormon, there's aspects of Scientology, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism,
but this like new era religion, which is what
it definitely is pushing into that. And I definitely the Mormon, Scientology, or you could even say Nation of Islam as well. That's like everyone has its little offshoot. I was on Facebook and I saw some guy do this like 4-page post about all the Kabbalah references that Ben Stiller included in this because he's Jewish. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
This is interesting. This is crazy shit.
Ultimately, like, fun. You can talk about Severance forever because there's so many layers of interesting things it has to say about work, about work-life balance, about our what is the point of people? Like, is it to be exploited? Because that's certainly Kier's perspective. And like, so there's just like a million things we could go on forever. But is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap things up today?
No. I mean, this with the religious and the Severance, the world they're creating. Yeah, it's very awesome. I don't know. Did I have anything else? Let's see. I don't. Do you have any more time, or do you need to get going?
I have a little. No, I've got more time.
I do want to ask you Heath's question.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So Heath had this question. Do you want Zach Caleros to remain as the Blue Bombers QB?
Zach Caleros.
Zach Caleros? He won two Grey Cups. He lost
right.
three.
But he's lost. Yes, that's true.
Does he fizzle out in the big game? That's what
he has also taken them to 5 straight, which is
that's
impressive.
A lot. Yeah.
Right. Here's the thing. He's in the last year of his contract. The championship is in Winnipeg this year. So my thinking is you ride with the guy who brung you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And you. I mean, the thing is, there's been already a little bit of roster turnover this year. They were getting older. That certainly showed itself in the playoffs. I think what killed them the last 3 years was terrible play calling by a really stubborn OC. And while the head coach, Mike O'Shea, might try to, fall on the sword as is his job, they ultimately, that offense coordinator, Buck Pierce, former player, went on to he's going to be head coaching in BC, I think. So he's out of the organization. They hired from within to promoted from within for the new offensive coordinator. So time we'll see, I suppose. That being said, I think Zach Caleros isn't the problem. It was play calling that was the problem. You still have the best running back in the league. You still have one of the best receiving cores in the league, despite moving on from maybe one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver in Kenny Lawler. And I think their chances of making it back to the Grey Cup are good. Still, I think after this season, it depends. He'll be the quarterback through this season for sure. Unless he gets hurt. And then after that, it's really hard to say. They don't really have a good backup plan. They don't have they haven't really been developing from within an internal replacement strategy. They did have one 2 years ago in Brown, but he went on. He's now the starting quarterback in Ottawa and doing pretty good in a pretty bad team. So unfortunate there. But the long answer to your CFL question, of course, is time will tell. But I think that they've made some smart changes. And as someone who bought Grey Cup tickets for this year, I really hope they're back there and they can shake off this 3 straight thing.
Nice. Yeah. Well, Heath will very much enjoy that. He is a big CFL fan, and he might be the only one who really understood what you were talking about there.
Well, it's just football talk.
I understood from a football aspect, not the particular players, but he will be happy with it. But he does also have a follow-up question. This is something a little bit different.
Okay.
Which is, he's interested in your thoughts on the new Superman and what you think of what James Gunn is doing with this new DC universe. Are you excited for it? Do you think he's going to be able to finally match
what nervous.
Marvel has done?
I'm very nervous, and I think that the best thing that they can do is try to divorce themselves from the dichotomy of Marvel. They spent the last 10 years almost chasing Marvel, and what did it bring them? Nothing, really. It brought them failure. It brought them a company that is on the verge of bankruptcy. Now, is that all of DC's fault? No. That being said, I did read a headline yesterday, and just a headline, so bear with me, but it was basically like, if Superman is not a success, that Warner Brothers could go the way of Fox, which is to say that they are sold for parts. Now, that's not surprising given the leadership under Zaslav is one of cut. Except for his own salary, of course. He's still going to make lots of bonuses. But it is not a healthy company, Warner Brothers. Did they make the right choice in spinning up their own development studio and DC Studios? Yes, I think that is the right choice. Do I think James Gunn is the right person to lead this organization? I don't know yet. I will say this. he does make popular movies. His movies are generally well made and look and sound good in the sense that like the script is good. They look visually well made, which is more than you can say about like a lot of movies in the last 5 years or so. Um, and yes, these movies are going to be made a little bit cheaper than maybe some of the Marvel movies and maybe even some of the last Superman and Justice League and stuff like that. Those are expensive movies. They're not going to spend that much. So you got to do more with less, and that's a challenge. That being said, if anyone can do it, I do think James Gunn can. I watched Creature Commandos. That's the first step into this new DC world. And while Creature Commandos is just another version of something that we've already seen, like a ragtag team, which is like his go-to thing, James Gunn, right? If it's not Suicide Squad, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, these are that's his bread and butter, right? And so it's entertaining, it's fun, it's funny, it's telling interesting stories that are more than just surface level action superhero fare. So that gave me it gave me confidence that we're going in the right direction. Now, time will tell. I think this first trailer was good. I think that people have a right to have concerns about this movie. Ultimately, I think it will be successful from a financial perspective. I think it will be a very entertaining movie. I think it's going to be a movie that brings back Superman to its roots, which is this like the decision between doing what is right in face of something impossible. That's what Superman's really all about, right? So we know that James Gunn is good at telling these stories with an emotional core, and if anything, the only thing that works for Superman is an emotional core because he's so overpowered, quote unquote, that you can't really present a lot of interesting physical matchups. That's why you have to work with Superman with the heart, the brain, right? Like making him pick and choose, making him choose between Lois and saving up the city. These are the things that are fascinating. They work because they are timeless concepts. So I think that's what we're going to see in this movie. There's going to be other characters in here. We've got our first look at Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, and there's going to be some silliness. But there's always been some silliness in comic books. I think it's a mistake to shy away from that.
I totally agree. I think some of the best Marvel stuff has been when they've leaned into that, when they've even made references to it in the films, like of being in the tights
100%.
or the outfits or
100%.
You know, that's this great stuff. I agree with everything you said. And
I am worried.
I'm a little worried because Gunn, I've not always been a fan of his, and I think that he has a same. Did you watch
Peacemaker?
Yes.
I loved Peacemaker. I thought that was brilliant.
I loved it too. If it can be more Peacemaker and less almost everything else he's made, I would be very happy with that.
That's what
think sometimes
Creature Commandos is.
He goes off a bit too much. He gets into his own bullshit. He's a little too juvenile for me. It's a little bit too much. Also, the needle drops are excessive, just like with Zack Snyder. I am not a fan of needle drops at all. Like, they're totally ruined in films for me now. Everybody fucking does it. It's so boring. And I hate when it's a cover song, but that's a different subject. But if he can restrain himself,
be at least one. There will be at least.
Oh, there's going to be a lot more than one. But if he can restrain himself a bit and go with the stuff you're talking about, then I think he can really do it. And the trailer where they showed like the dog, that was like a heartstrings pull. That's what Superman. That you're so right. The problem with the Zack Snyder stuff, and I won't go into a whole diatribe, even though it's made for 13-year-old boys with masculinity issues, is that it was no heart. I didn't care about anyone. I was hoping people got blown up and everything. Though I love the beginning of his Superman. I thought it was cool when he did the Deadliest Catch shit, and he was like,
Oh, yeah.
catching fish off this. That was kind of cool to me when the best parts of that movie was when he wasn't Superman, which
I would say, yeah.
that's why
Man
he
of
didn't
Steel's-
understand Superman.
Man of Steel is an interesting movie, and it's the best Superman movie we've had in a long time. I will say this, though.
I mean, maybe it's better than the Brandon Routh one, but I don't even.
Yes.
I mean, maybe.
Well, and it's better than most of the later sequels to the Superman the movie.
You mean
so.
Superman 4: The Quest for Peace? That didn't.
I mean, I don't really. I mean, and it's also
I'm not nostalgic
that's
for
a different,
any of those movies.
That's a different era altogether, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I'll just say this: that I do worry that despite the movie, I think it'll be good. I worry about it not being received well by that Snyder audience.
And
I think that is an anchor, a weight that they have to carry around.
You're right about
until they can win them over somehow. And I don't know how you do it in a way. It might be impossible. They might be but you do need some of those people.
You do. And if he can have one really violent moment where he rips someone's arm off or something, then maybe those guys will be happy and they'll be like, oh, good, he did something bad, or I don't know. I mean, it just has to be some kind of
I don't think they know,
meanie, he has to be cruel, really.
Well, I think what I think is that I think that they would see that as an attempt to rip off Snyder. So what you can't do is try to do that. And the challenge, of course, is there's a potential chance that for a large portion of that group, that there is no winning them over. Unless it is more Snyder, it is not.
It's a cult.
There is no more.
Yeah.
That it cannot be achieved. So my hope is that it is able to grab the attention of everyone else in such a strong way that you don't necessarily need those folks, and that you can say, look, we can make successful Superman movies.
Well, they're going to go see it. You have a
they
point.
May not. They might not.
That's the thing. If it makes money and they complain, even if they go see it, it still makes the money. They're going to make another one.
They didn't go see any of these other DC movies. They don't want to. So that is a challenge. This movie needs to be financially successful in spite of any potential quote unquote boycott against what is.
God, man, could you imagine?
Or not?
Imagine if this thing bombs and this whole thing goes the way of the new monster universe.
That's the concern, right?
It could happen.
That it completely collapses under its own weight.
I don't think so, though.
It's not able to get even off the ground. And I think that would be a shame. Yeah. I think we need there needs to be some runway to say it can't all fall on one movie. There needs to be what do they have their plan? What's their plans for Lanterns? We need to see that stuff before.
Okay, I wanted to say this,
but I don't trust Zaslav on that.
I don't really either, but I do trust creatives, and I think that I was listening to you talk about the new Lanterns show and about the photo that was released. That is just
it's a little lackluster.
See, I on the other hand did not find it lackluster. I on the other hand looked at that because I think you were, and you talked about it in your podcast, how you were looking at it from a comic booky purist kind of angle, whereas that's not what that's for. That photo
for everyone else.
Was for normies to look at it and go, okay, good. This might be a show.
It's not the Ryan Reynolds movie.
Yes. Or God forbid, a show that an adult might like. Because there are a lot of adults in this world, and I may be one of them, who do think that these things are mostly for kids. Like the Marvel movies, that's why the Zack Snyder stuff never really appealed to me, because I thought it was taking kind of a kid thing and trying to make it too adult for its own good. It has to have that kind of humor, that kind of silliness. You can have adult ideas. We've seen it. I'm not saying I loved The Dark Knight and all. Of course, there's very adult ideas that there's a way you can do it. Christopher Nolan is an exception, but I think that is an aspect that should not be forgotten. And I think that I kind of lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
about lanterns.
Oh, the lanterns
being appealing to someone. Yeah,
there are people who are a little sick of the superhero shit, man, and that they're adults and they're kind of like, and even people like me who grew up with it. I used to read comic books and who's loved a lot of this shit. I'm kind of like, I would kind of rather a Green Lantern story where there wasn't so much CGI, where there wasn't a big fight where people get thrown through a brick wall every 3 minutes, or it turns into a gush of CGI characters melting into each other, looking like plastic men. That there's like some thought behind, like it's a little elevated. And that to me looked elevated. And the choice of Kyle Chandler is elevated. And the other guy who's in it, who was in, what was it?
Oh man, the Netflix movie
that was awesome. That my man who did oh gosh, I'm blanking right now.
Hold on, I'll find it.
Anyway, great actor. He was great in that. When they cast him, I was like, yes.
Aaron Pierce.
He's awesome. I was so happy about that shot. I just wanted to tell you my response and I've read a lot of Green Lantern comic books. I know the stories.
Rebel Ridge,
so awesome. I just thought that was a great photo. It made me more excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's you can't appease everyone. So it's like if you're a massive Green Lantern fan, all you see is this, like, and Jeremy is one of those. You look at the photo, I'm looking at it right now, it's like the jacket is a little ill-fitted.
But that's such a small percentage of the people they're trying to get to watch this show.
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. He is wearing the ring, 2%. Which is important.
You know, like that's just not a big, even if and it's like we're saying about the online present. I think there's sometimes crossover too. You know what I mean? Like there's with Gunn too. I think there's a crossover. He does kind of appeal to that Snydery type,
Not if you read the comments online.
I know. I think there is a little more crossover because they both at least care, right?
Yeah,
I think that says something.
The thing is, like, I think they just need to be won over. I think there needs to be good movies. The characters need to be treated with respect, and as long as those things happen, it'll fall into place eventually.
And just have fun. But that's any movie, right? Like when people say that, like, see, when I hear treat a character with respect, that does not include to me any reference to prior material. It includes how the character is in that particular material. Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, it depends. Like, are you talking about the fourth Captain America movie, or you're talking about the first Captain America movie?
I mean, like, if Snyder, I'm not against a Superman. I'm not diametrically opposed to a Superman who kills people. I just didn't think the way Snyder did it was in any way believable.
True to the character. It's just not that true to the character.
It wasn't true to anything. It was, you know what I mean? It seemed true to the concept rather than the character and the film itself.
Yes, he wanted to display these characters as gods. That was his.
Which is kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's a cool idea.
And it exists in comics too. That's where Thor. Yeah. Like it's. This is what is religion? That's why when I watched like in the early days of the Marvel stuff, there used to be these jokes, and like remember even Kevin Smith in his movie where it's like Super Jesus, like he can lift the car. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's kind of the same thing. It goes back to my son loves like the Percy Jackson show on Disney. It goes back to that, right? Like that's really what they are. All those characters, they're a kind of a continuation of that mythological Ubermensch, that superhero, right? Who can do things that the normal man can't do. And I think, if we bring it all the way back, you look at our modern society and all of this kind of like misplaced masculinity and toxic masculinity. It's all these guys who want to like, like I can't hunt and gather anymore, so I have to drive a truck that's 8 feet off the ground, or it's like it's this weird time in society, and it's reflected in our films.
Yes, and I think on that note, and we can wrap it up here because I'll tie it back to something I mentioned earlier, which is Daredevil Born Again brings back John Bernthal, and I think they're teasing that next week, maybe even as early as next week, John Bernthal will appear. It's unclear,
love that
for sure when he appears. But here's the thing: John Bernthal, he appeared on Hot Ones. This is back years and years and years ago. and he had a really good speech about toxic masculinity. And so, if anybody understands this concept better than anyone, it's John Bernthal. I really do think that he's especially playing a character like the Punisher, which is a character that was co-opted by some of the worst people. And so I'm excited to see, Disney, I guess, Marvel more specifically, and then I guess this creative team in Daredevil explore these concepts, because that's what they're going to be doing. They're not afraid of doing it. They did it in the original Daredevil run. The showrunner for this show is the showrunner from the Punisher show, and those are a few years old, but I'd recommend people watch those again. They're really, really good. So there is, I think, an understanding that, especially, even by someone like James Gunn, who may be polarizing to some, he is able to take a stand, a perspective, have something to say. I am sick of movies and shows having nothing to say, and I understand that there's a desire to stick your head in the sand and ignore the crappy things going on in your life. I don't want politics in my superhero movies, yada, yada, yada. Get over it. Politics isn't everything. It doesn't even have to be politics. It can be a personal perspective. It can be all these things. But if you don't have something to say, you don't have a story. And I think that we're coming around to this understanding that you can actually tell these fantastical tales, but if you don't ground it in character, it doesn't matter. And so,
well, I hope I think
we're coming out of what was under the leadership of the last Bob, who was in charge of Bob Chapek, who was in charge of Disney, and basically drove the Marvel stuff into the ground by forcing them to make more and more stuff faster than they could possibly do it.
Well, I also think
it's brand.
What you were saying is hopefully something we see, which is a cultural reaction where you have this fake kind of progressivism by these corporate
they've already abandoned
corporate films, right? But then what? But see, that doesn't always turn out the way you think. When you legislate culture like that and you say, oh, we can't do movies like that, then people actually go out and make movies that really talk about it. That aren't bullshit.
We're
like
in
Marvel
that time
movies.
now.
That's what I'm saying, and that's what I look forward to. That we have more people creating things and actually, like you're saying, actually taking a chance and saying something, even if it's something I don't agree with. Go out there and say it and be vulnerable about it too.
They're going to tackle Daredevil's about to tackle vigilantism in a Trump analog, and it's going to deal with it both from a moral perspective and a legal perspective, and that is at least, if nothing else, fascinating, interesting, right? So, and there's a big opening fight sequence in the very first episode that's a little bit underwhelming. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not even here for Daredevil to be a big fight sequence thing, because it looks bad. They use some bad CG in parts. It's not great, but then the rest of the show has been so good because it's been concentrating on character, and we saw Penguin this last year do the same thing, understanding. What makes these shows, what makes this work? It's not the set pieces. That's a part of it. It's the characters we're getting. And I think we're coming back into that era. I don't know for sure. Time will tell, but I'm hopeful, at least on a creative side of things, that there's something to say, which is part of, by the way, like why something like Joker 2 is so disappointing, because it also has nothing to say, really. Which other than the first movie did. And the second movie was, you guys should have paid attention to the first movie. That's really all it has to say, and it's a little disappointing. Yeah. But I do respect the move of taking corporate dollars to basically slap your corporate overlords in the face and say, I told you so, taking that money and run. I have some respect for that. But anyway.
And they'll give it to them again. Yes, great talk, buddy. Always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for all the time you've given us today. Please tell us again where we can find you.
Yeah, head over to towerofbabel.ca. You'll find links to all the shows that we do. I do 2 shows. The Tower of Babel podcast, which is in a bit of a reconfiguration stage right now. We're going to try to relaunch the show in a different format. Do something different. We've been doing the same thing for almost 10 years. It's gotten a little stale, at least from our perspective. So we're going to change it up. It's not fully baked yet. So just stay tuned for that. In the meantime, get really excited because we're just around the corner from Andor season 2. And despite the fact that I'm not really sure how to cover it, they're essentially releasing a Star Wars movie weekly on Disney Plus. I cannot wait. It's some of the best.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Some of the best sci-fi I've seen ever. And I love Star Wars in general. The fact that they use Star Wars in such an interesting way is so fast. It's so exciting. So we're going to be covering that on Small Screen Star Wars. That's a whole entirely separate feed. You can subscribe to it, where we're going to try to break it down as best we can for people who have full-time jobs on a weekly basis through, April, that it's going to have Andor season 2. And if you haven't seen it, in fact, I'm going to do a small plug for Disney. The first 2, I think, or 3 episodes of Andor season 1 are available to watch for free on YouTube. So and get in there, watch it, get excited. I am stoked. I'm going to rewatch the first season if I find the time to get ready for it. It should be that I read it. There's an article, I think, on. It's on my phone here. There's an article. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But again, speaking of headlines, there is an article on Forbes titled "Andor should be the future of Star Wars. It's confirmed it won't be," which is disappointing for me because this is exactly what they should be doing. But
yeah, who knows what the fuck they're. That's like the case with that. I'm just happy when we get some good stuff.
Yeah, make something interesting.
And this is the Andor, definitely. And you and Rachel both do a fantastic job. I love listening to your show because you have the mix of knowing the Star Wars lore and such, but you do put the characters and the story to the front and center when you're talking about it. I always do love listening to you. So people out there listening to us now, listen to that. I said maybe we should cover Andor too, but I don't know. I think we're going to do something different.
Fair enough.
I don't think we're going to do it.
It's going to be pretty heavy. Enough. I don't think it's going to be. I mean, ultimately, it's all just a big allegory for fascism, and so if there's anything that's not more relevant now, I don't know what is. So I would, even if you don't know the events of episode 4, A New Hope, and the events of Rogue One. I assume you've seen Rogue One. So if you know that, you can watch this show and I think there's going to be deep cut references. You don't need to know them to understand what the show is going to be trying to achieve. And I think that's interesting. So
we will very much look forward to it, and we look forward to Canada remaining a free and independent nation.
That's right. Never 51. Elbows up. Everything that they say. Yeah.
Come on. Canada is a beautiful nation. You're our family. But
yeah, it's important to remember all the stuff all the wars and stuff that we fought in with you. It's easy to throw that aside now. Apparently,
all this silliness will go away, and it will lead to a renewed relationship and respect between our two nations.
I sure hope so.
Educated folk that we are.
I sure hope so.
We move forward.
Here's to that. I'll cheers to that.
Yes.
To that dream.
All right. Well, cheers to everyone listening. DVRpodcast.com. Thanks to our patrons, patreon.com/DVR. We'll be back talking about Severance on Monday and White Lotus on Wednesday. And we'll go from there. Thanks, everybody. Peace out.